It's time to continue with the 40-man roster breakdown, this time the position players.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the Marlins for 4 seasons. Go hit me up on Twitter at Jeremiah Geiger2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Happy off season. There's no games this week, which is disappointing if you're a Marlins fan. You want to be in the playoffs. Postseason baseball is starting today. The Tigers just beat the Guardians in Game 1. As I'm recording this, let's see. There's another game going on right now. I'm not watching because I'm recording this episode. But the Cubs are up on the Padres 2-1 in the 8th. So we'll see how that goes. Nothing like postseason baseball, and I can't wait for the Marlins to get to the postseason again. And it starts with roster building. Get their roster, get their team in a position that is competitive. And we saw that this season. Huge strides forward. 17-game improvement from a season ago. Now let's build on that. So the 40-man roster, of course, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about who currently is on, who I could see getting moved off of the 40-man and going to a new organization that they don't factor into the Marlins plans, but also who are the cornerstones, the key cogs in this lineup. And that's what this show is going to be about today, the position players. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So we're going to go down the list. We're going to start with catchers, then go to infielders, and finally outfielders. Catchers. 3 catchers currently on the 40-man. Liam Hicks, Brian Navarreto, and Agustin Ramirez. You will notice Joe Mack is not on the 40-man roster. Well, he will be soon enough. I can guarantee you that. Liam Hicks, real good Rule 5 draft pick from last offseason. He proved that he's a capable major league player, albeit maybe not your everyday catcher, but it's fine. 247, 6 bombs, OPS of 692 across 332 at-bats. He more than held his own at the major league level. So you got to give Liam Hicks credit. Brian Navarreto. Look, you give credit where credit's due. You're happy for the guy. He was the catcher in the final game of the season when the Marlins eliminated the Mets. I'll always remember his reaction after Fauché struck out Francisco Alvarez. Navarreto jumps up and he's just hyped. He wanted this win. He knew what was at stake. He had 14 at-bats in the back half of the season, a career minor leaguer. Now, interesting fact with Navarreto, this was his second stint on the Marlins big league club. He played in a couple of games all the way back in 2020. So he knows the Marlins organization. I do expect, though, this to be a Johnny Pareda situation from a season ago. Navarreto most likely will not be on this roster at the beginning of next season. Agustin Ramirez, the organization has made it abundantly clear at this point. They want to keep him as a catcher. They believe that his defensive value, or his overall value rather, is going to reside in his glove as well as his bat. We know what he can do with the bat. But in order to maximize his value and get him to be a player in which he's not limited to just DH. He's not limited to driving in runs and home runs to provide your team any worth. He's going to have to improve massively at the catching position. He just has to. Otherwise, Ramirez will force the Marlins' hand at some point, especially with the development of Joe Mack, and I believe Joe Mack is ready day one, opening game next year, to be the catcher. Augustine has his work cut out for him. He's listed as a catcher. They caught him all season. They put him behind the plate. I do think that the most prudent decision, and what I believe is an inevitable decision for Augustine Ramirez, or for the Marlins with Augustine, is moving him off of catcher. It's got to happen eventually, in my opinion. It just has to. He's a liability behind the plate. And I hope he proves me wrong and has a great offseason. It's something that I'm going to, follow, and any bits of information that I can tell regarding his improvement defensively, I'm going to count that as a success. Because next spring training, if it looks like it did this season, then you just can't have that. Not when you had a 17-game improvement in 2025 and have a chance to potentially be competitive and this time get into the playoffs. You need better defense from your catcher. So Augustine, I would put at first base, or at least give him a first base glove this offseason. Try to get him to learn the position, because a defender at first base who's even average has more value than somebody that can't play the field and is limited to designated hitter only. So that's where I stand with Augustine Ramirez. I love the bat. I mean, the bat is legit. Now, did he struggle at times? Yes. There's some holes in his game that are evident. Sometimes he gets swing happy. Sometimes, he gets into these cold spells where you feel like he's just not contributing, and then he hits a absolute missile to left field at 112 miles an hour or whatever, and you're like, yeah, this guy's really good. He's got a ton of power, ton of raw power. And another underrated aspect of Augustine's game, very smart base stealer. 16 stolen bases. For a guy that doesn't run especially well, at least when you're watching him run, it looks clunky. It doesn't look like he should have 16 bags, but he did. He's an extra base hit machine, and he's somebody that I think is a huge part of what the Marlins are building and trying to build for the future. And in 2026, if they want to compete, his offensive prowess has to continue, and I'd like to see it improve a little bit as well. He finished the year with 21 homers, 33 doubles. He had a triple. Now, he struck out a lot, 113 strikeouts in 537 at-bats. So there's room for Augustine to improve. And that's what this season was all about, was, hey, it's development. Let's see what we got. Let's just see what we got, and we're going to throw stuff at the wall. We're going to throw you a bunch of players, and hopefully some guys stick. And some guys really showed up. Stowers, who we're going to talk about later. We're going to talk about Otto Lopez, who's a big piece of this team. Augustine fits the bill as a building block player. And so the strikeout rate compared to the walk rate, I would say, because in of itself, 19% strikeout rate. The walk rate, though, only at 6%. So I would like to see that walk rate get back to what it was in the minor leagues, and he become more of a disciplined hitter. And that's when I say Augustine gets swing happy. It's when he's not letting the pitches. He's not dictating the at-bat. He's letting the pitcher dictate the at-bat. And he can crush a mistake, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's good to be patient and kind of take a Jacob Marcy approach at your at-bat. So that's one of the things I want to see Augustine focus on and really emphasize heading into next season. We're going to talk about the infield. We talked about the catchers. We're going to talk about the infielders on the 40-man roster right after this. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, yeah, that actually works. There are so many products there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, and now Nutrafol is the official hair growth partner of Major League Baseball. You can feel great about what you're putting into your body because Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF Contents certified. It's the gold standard and third-party certification for supplements. You will notice less shedding, healthier looking hair after using Nutrafol. And whether you're at work, you're with your friends, you're just getting up in the morning, Nutrafol is going to give you more confidence in your daily routine. It's a simple addition to your day. It's just 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. And for a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. I appreciate all the everyday listeners throughout this entire season who tuned in to Locked On Marlins. We still have plenty of off-season content. Major League Baseball never stops. We have the postseason right now. We have the winter meetings in a couple of months. The Marlins are rumored to sign free agents, so we're going to talk about free agents later on, who I want to see. There's some mailbag questions. We got plenty to talk about, even though the season just wrapped up. But we're continuing this 40-man roster breakdown, specifically this segment, the infielders for the Marlins. We're going to start with Max Acosta. I think Max Acosta got called up prematurely. I don't think he was ready for the major leagues. He got called up, pressed into action. His first 3 hits of his major league career were homers, but really not much else to talk about. Only 54 at-bats. He hit 204, so the hit tool really wasn't showing up. And in the minor leagues, where he got the majority of his at-bats, I think it's safe to say he struggled outside of the power department. Now, in 115 games, he had 13 bombs, but he hit just 224, which was a huge step back from a season ago in Double-A Frisco in the Rangers organization, where he hit 288 and an OPS of almost 100 points higher than it was this year in Triple-A Jacksonville. So clearly a learning curve from Double-A to Triple-A. It affected him, and then he went from Triple-A to the majors. I would say he was a little bit outmatched. But I don't assume for a second that the Marlins are going to move on from him, but it is a big season next year I project him to start in Triple-A Jacksonville again and hopefully show some growth and get back to that 2024 version. Davison De Los Santos. Now, I have a mailbag question about him specifically, so I'm going to save a more in-depth Davison De Los Santos breakdown for a later episode. But I will say that I'm pretty concerned with DDLS. Not even pretty concerned. I'm really concerned with DDLS and his profile. Huge step back from a season ago. It wasn't even close. Now, he did have over 100 less at-bats, but 40 homers in 2024, the minor league home run king, to 12 bombs. So we're going to do an in-depth breakdown with Davison De Los Santos, or about Davison De Los Santos later on in the week, or I think maybe today. I'm planning on doing 2 episodes today, but it was a mailbag question, so we're going to move on. Xavier Edwards. You guys know how much I like Xavier Edwards. I predicted him to win the National League batting title, and for a second there, towards the in the second half, you felt like there was a chance. Then he hit a slump. He was hitting under 200 for a good chunk of games before getting back to himself. I like Xavier Edwards. I think he's the prototypical leadoff hitter that is perfect and is a perfect table setter for this Marlins team, especially if they continue to build and add power behind him. As long as he continues to get on base and just rack up those singles and be efficient in the stolen base department, I would like to see X steal and steal more efficiently. Just 27 stolen bases, and I know that's still a good amount, but a season ago he stole 31 in 70 games. And this season 27 in 139 games, and also got caught 7 times. So that aspect of his game is crucial. It's a big part of his game. I want to see that, get back to where it was his rookie season. Otto Lopez. Otto Lopez is a really good baseball player. Really good baseball player. Extremely underrated. Now, Otto, the big thing with Otto Lopez is he's going to provide you a real safe floor because of his WAR. His defense. You look at Otto Lopez and his WAR, he's a 3 WAR player, and you assume that he can be a perennial 3 to 4 WAR player every single year just because of how good his defense is. And then in this season, the power that started to take off. Otto Lopez, he hit 15 bombs this season, which for a second baseman you'll take. I don't think the class of the second base position is as talented as the other. Well, I take that back because Otto moved to shortstop. For some reason I confused that. That's a rookie mistake by me. Otto moved to shortstop. If Otto had stayed at second base, there was a good chance that he would win the Gold Glove for that position because he was so good there. But they did the right decision. They moved him to shortstop where he's still really good. 3.5 WAR player, 15 homers, stole 15 bags. The average dropped a little bit, hit 246, and I do think there's an element of luck to that. I think that Lopez is going to be just fine in the long run. If you look at his expected batting average, he hit 2.7. It would be 279. That's the 81st percentile. So he was making good contact, putting good wood on the ball. Just got a little bit unlucky. Still, it doesn't strike out. Just a 13.8% strikeout rate. Doesn't really whiff, and that batting average should climb higher next season to go with the power and then elite range at the shortstop position with 10 an outs above average of 10, which is the 96th percentile. So Otto Lopez is a good ball player. He's somebody that's going to be an important cog in this lineup for next season. Again, if the Marlins want to make a run, they're going to need to avoid regression across the board. And we're going to talk about future additions and all that because I still think there's room to improve holistically on this roster. But also the guys who you have right now, Agustin Ramirez getting better on defense or moving positions or just eliminating the aggressiveness to a degree and not being as aggressive, getting that walk rate up for Otto Lopez. Yeah, there's an element of luck. Yeah, we saw the power, but also for him, like, hey, let's get that consistency to stay the same. No regression. I don't want to see any regression, and it's easier said than done, but that's where we are with Otto Lopez and with some of these players. Next player on the list for the Marlins. Let's see here. I lost my tab. So I'm going to Marlins 40-man roster. I'm going down the list. So if you have it pulled up, you can follow along. Connor Norby. Let's talk about Connor Norby real quickly. Injury-riddled season. Frustrating year for him. I think Norby, the expectations that surrounded him were not necessarily doing him any favors. When you come into a season with such heavy expectations, it's tough to live up to them when you're dealing with multiple injuries. And obviously, there's nobody that wants to stay on the field more and help out his team than Norby. Just 25 years old, still managed to hit 251, 8 bombs, and he was pretty good down the stretch. Defensively, big question mark. Big question mark at third base with Connor Norby and Graham Pauley, who I'll talk about right after I finish up with Norby. It's because I don't think Norby's a third baseman, nor do I think he should be the starting third baseman in 2026. So then that begs the question, where does he fit into the Marlins' plans? I think the organization is going to try to make it work because they believe in his bat. But offensively, he has to cut down on the chase, on the aggressiveness. Much like Agustin Ramirez with a low walk rate, Connor Norby just literally swings at everything. He's never seen a pitch he didn't like. And while that can be good in some situations, he doesn't have the contact skills of a Luis Arias circa 2023 to really make that work. I mean, Luis Arias would swing at anything, but he was a great bad ball hitter. When Connor Norby's chasing at a 32% clip and whiffing at a 29% clip, but he doesn't have the elite skill set of Luis Arias, that's where you need to tone it down. So still work to be done with him. The jury's not out yet. The book hasn't been closed, but it was a concerning year. Graham Pauley. I'm a huge Graham Pauley believer. And I'm going to go out here on September 30th, right after the season ended, and I'm going to say I want Graham Pauley to be the guy at third base. Because defensively, Pauley is legit. He's not just legit, he's elite. He's an elite defensive third baseman that came out of nowhere. Nobody expected Graham Pauley to be this good at the hot corner, and yet he is. Right up there with, I compare him to Ke'Bryan Hayes. Questionable bat, although he improved as he got consistent playing time, but defensively, he's a wizard with the glove, and he's somebody that I just think the value of Pauley's glove outweighs the questions with his bat, although I do believe that Pauley can be a consistent contributor offensively next season. But he needs consistent playing time, and yes, he does need to improve. There's no doubt about that. He struggles with the chase rate and the whiff rate. It's high up there. 28% chase, 27% whiff, still lower than Connor Norby, but still not ideal. But defensively, that's where he just sets himself apart in a potential competition in spring training. We're going to finish up the infield in the next segment. I think we're going to have to push the outfield to a different episode. Time limits, I know, but there's a lot of players on this 40-man roster. So we're going to finish up the infield and give you my final thoughts on these players and what they bring to the table in 2026 right after this. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays. You can try player props, follow the live lines during the game, hop in, throw some money in the third, fourth quarter when you have a hunch that it's going to hit. It makes watching football that much more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you just love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And remember, if your first $5 wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app today. Locked on Marlins, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Just takes 1 second. Or if you want to listen to the show, we're on all the major podcast platforms out there. Spotify, Apple, you name it. We got it. Finishing up the position player breakdown, and this took me longer than expected because we're only going to get through the infielders. We still have the outfielders to get to, and there's plenty to talk about that. And I don't even think I'm going that in depth, but as the offseason continues, I'm sure I'm going to do more specific or player specific breakdowns and really dive deep into the numbers and the metrics for you guys who like that sort of thing. We talked about Pauley, we talked about Connor Norby at third base. Let's talk about the jack of all trades, the Marlins' personal Swiss Army knife, Xavier Serna. Xavier Serna is one of those players who you just love to root for. One of my favorite Marlins. Reminds me of John Birdie in the sense that he can play all over the diamond. Doesn't necessarily have a set position, but you need him at second, he'll play second. You need him to go give Otto Lopez a day off, or if Otto Lopez isn't feeling too great, it's on the injured list maybe, he can play some shortstop. You need him to pitch. He can pitch. He made 8 relief appearances this season for the Fish. Crazy. He can play left field. He can play center field. He can play every single position in the infield. He even played 1 inning at first base, which, to be honest, I do not remember that at all, but he did it. And he plays with heart. He's a little guy with a big heart. And he's come clutch in some big moments for the Fish. This past weekend against the Mets, had a big series. Had a big home run against the Phillies at their place at Citizens Bank Park earlier in the year. He plays the game with a passion, and he's not bad at it either. OPS was 683 across 313 at bats, and he was a little bit of a doubles machine as well. For the season, he finishes with 6 bombs, 22 doubles, and 4 triples. So there's legitimate 30-35 double potential in his stick. Gap to gap hitter. You'd think he's just a slap hitter, not a lot of doubles, not a lot of homers, mainly singles, but 22 doubles in 120 games. I mean, if he played 155 games, where's that number at? If you add another 35 games, maybe he gets to 30, maybe pushes 35 doubles. So I'm a big Xavier Serna fan, and I love the energy and the juice he brings to this team. Just a team-first guy, somebody you want in your clubhouse, you want to get in the lineup. Big fan of him. Jared Serna. Now, I was super high on Serna in 2024. I looked at him and I thought he could be the next Jose Altuve. I mean, he was a doubles machine. He had homers, ton of power, and was the same stature as Xavier Serna, but more of a violent swing and more of a power threat. And then he just had a bad 2025. He goes up to, he stays in the AA level and regresses. 3 homers down from 15. 15 homers to 3. 8 doubles in Pensacola. Finished with 10 because he did get promoted to AAA Jacksonville and played 10 games there. But hit on the season, he hit just 224 with an OPS of 589. So the alarm bells start sounding off. There's time. He's going to get another crack at the AAA level, of course. Just got a taste of it, cup of coffee with the jumbo shrimp. Let's see what he does. It's a big prove-it year. Much like Max Acosta, it's a big prove-it year in 2026 for Jared Serna to see whether, hey, we still got something here or we don't. Again, one of my favorite prospects when he came over in the Jazz Chisholm Jr. trade, along with Agustin Ramirez, but very disappointing season. We'll wrap it up here with a couple more. Jack Winkler. Now, Jack Winkler, to me, I don't think he warrants a 40-man roster spot. I don't. If I had to bet money on who would be the first current player on the 40-man to get DFA'd, it would be Winkler. Now, he played some baseball for the Marlins, actually got called up, but he's more of a minor league guy, not a ton of tools that stand out. You wish him the best in wherever his career takes him. I just don't see how you can keep him in a 40-man roster spot when there's going to be players inevitably that you're going to have to bring in and give them one of those spots. So Winkler's one of those guys in the minors, 26 years old, not a big future in Miami. Eric Wagaman. What do we do with Eric Wagaman this offseason? The much maligned first baseman, the big ginger. I criticized him a lot. I was not an Eric Wagaman believer. And then he got super hot in the month of August. And honestly, it carried into September. If we look at his monthly splits, September he hit 328. August he hit 258. So real great September. 328 with an OPS of 754. His last 30 games, he went 28 for 91. That's a 308 clip. 12 RBIs. He homered, stole a base as well. Wagaman finished the season strong. You got to give him credit. But he's limited defensively. He's only going to be your first baseman. Maybe he can DH. And the Marlins are going to have questions specifically with that first base position. How do they address it? How are they going to address that first base? Third base, they're probably going to rock with Connor Norby and or Graham Pauley in a competition in the Grapefruit League. First base, are you going to do the same with Troy Johnston? Are you going to do the same with Liam Hicks and Eric Wagaman? I don't know. I don't know if you can really do that and then expect the fan base to say, well, we want to compete. You said the expectation was going to be, we're going to spend money when the time is right, and yet you don't do anything to address first base, which I view as a clear need. If the organization believes that Wagaman's month of September, back half of August is more indicative of the player he is, and obviously he's not going to finish next year hitting 328, but if they internally believe that, then he's on the roster. And if they don't, if they think there's better options, if they want that big splash signing, and hypothetically they go for Pete Alonso or Josh Naylor, then Wagaman's expendable. But until proven otherwise, I don't know if this team gets rid of him. Troy Johnston is also a first baseman / outfielder. I'm going to include him in the outfield discussion because that's where he's listed on the 40-man roster, and I'm just going down the list. Personally, for me, I want the Marlins to really make a statement this offseason and take improving this roster seriously. I don't think Wagaman, Hicks, Johnston at first is what you can roll with for 162 games. And I love Troy Johnston. And I think Liam Hicks is a great player who deserves a ton of credit from coming up from Double-A. never seen AAA pitching in his life, and holding his own. He's a good ball player. Wagaman, don't really know what the real Wagaman is. The one thing I will say with Eric Wagaman that is frustrating is, as a first baseman, he doesn't provide you enough power. He just doesn't. He had 9 homers across 514 plate appearances. That's from a 6'4", 210-pound guy. That's somebody who I would like to see at least get 15 bombs, and he didn't. Again, he's not a good defensive first baseman. And the other aspect that can be criticized of his game is he doesn't walk. A walk rate very low, Connor Norby-esque, Agustin Ramirez-esque. And then he doesn't offset that with the power. So a really good back half. There's a lot of stuff he's done well, but I don't want him to be the Marlins starting first baseman in 2026. But until something else happens, hey, give credit where credit's due. And he'll have an opportunity to do so. It's just not the direction I want to go in. I want something better. I want bigger and better things for this Marlins organization. I'd love this team to go out and sign Josh Naylor. Take calls for Pete Alonso. That's the type of fan I am. I don't want to accept mediocrity. But I digress. We're going to wrap it up here. The outfield, we're going to talk about the outfield in another episode. But catchers and infielders, that's the 40-man roster breakdown. I appreciate you guys listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.